I'm a customer experience consultant, and I've recently started providing CX for founder services for people who are starting their own businesses. This came about because I was noticing with larger clients that problems in customer experience often came from a decision made early in the business's life. And what I thought I could do, what I hope to do, is actually prevent some of those decisions escalating into customer experience problems. I call it the customer experience wall. And while I was researching if this was a valued proposition, I found quite a lot of statistics showing that early life business failures are often due to a lack of customer understanding. Customer experience is crucial for a startup because it stops problems down the line. Customer experience happens whether we manage it or not. We don't want accidental customer experience. We've all been on the receiving end of accidental customer experience. When we intentionally manage customer experience, we create customers who are happy, who talk about us with joy, who refer us, who recommend us, and who are happy to continue giving us their money. Now, startups traditionally and very often start with a group of customers who become fans, but as they grow, they change their offer, they remove certain features that maybe don't seem so popular in the wider market, and they do things that turn off those early followers. Now, that might be okay. That might be your strategy, but it's so much better to understand customers before recruiting any and make sure those early followers are the people you want for the lifetime of your company. So much better. So it's crucial for a startup, it's crucial to growth, it's crucial to recruiting customers who you know you can keep forever, who are going to be fans and they're going to refer you without even thinking. Actual first step, the first customer experience tool you pick up will depend on your business. But the first step is always understanding your customers and seeing them as individuals, not as a market, because markets and individuals are very, very different creatures. Building some empathy, building some understanding, seeing the world through your customers' eyes, getting into their hearts and minds. When you understand your customers with what's called compassionate empathy, you can't help but consider them in your decision making. You can't help but consider them in your product, service, and touchpoint design. So for me, the first step is that understanding. You have hit on my favorite tool, voice of the customer. I think if everybody just did this, customer experience would be a lot better. It's far from the only tool, but I think it's a great first step. And it's a great first step because it encourages us to engage everyone in our organization. So collect one thing, utilize the key. If you collect and you don't utilize, if you collect and then just put it in a drawer somewhere and ignore it, you've wasted your time and you've probably upset your customers. So I would say founders effectively collect that customer feedback by understanding where their customers are and creating what we call a listening post. That listening post could be a social media scraper. It could be a system that reviews tickets from customer support. It could be customer interviews. It can be ethnography. That means watching our customers and seeing how they behave. There's all sorts of amazing behavioral things we can do. But the go-to, and while it's sometimes used badly or sometimes overused, the go-to remains today the customer survey. Customer survey helps us reach customers who we can't reach through those other methods. And if we do it well, we get a lot of good data. Now, I'm not talking about one of those interminable 80-page surveys we sometimes get from businesses, looking at a very quick touch point. When the customer's engaged with us, we ask them a question, which is a scale. How did you feel about that? And why? And if we can collect data that way, as our first listening post, and we read it ourselves rather than feeding it into an AI, we can actually start seeing our customer's perspective. So there's a good deal of understanding customer there. But once we've collected all this information from many customers, we actually have one of the hardest things to do in customer experience, and that is to open ourselves up to criticism. Because when customers give feedback, it isn't always what we want to hear, and it's sometimes not even in a tone of voice or using a language that we find easy to listen to or to take on board. So we have the tricky step of almost emotionally detaching ourselves from our business and reading that data. So important to read that data for yourselves the first time you do voice of the customer, and maybe the second, third, and fourth time, because then we really see what customers are saying. We then analyze that. What does it mean? What do we need to protect? What do they like? What do we need to change? And we go away and we make the changes. And then we return to our listening post to see if those changes have made a difference. When we return, we collect more feedback, we do more analysis, we take more action, we go back to measure. This is actually a continuous improvement loop, and you're doing all 4 stages at the same time once you get mature at it. Once you're mature at it, once you as a founder and once your whole team start to appreciate the value of customer feedback and how to take it on board, then you can automate it. Our voice of the customer platforms have been using AI for decades to understand customer feedback and to categorize it and to pull out insights. So I would say start small, start with one listening post, do it manually, gain that emotional connection with the feedback, share it with your team, and then when you are getting good at taking action, you can start to automate, bring on more listening posts, do AI type analysis on the feedback. And one of the key tools that any business can use, but I think for founders it's particularly effective because collecting and using feedback, or voice of the customer as we call it, is very scalable. It helps us build a team who listen to customers and understand customers, and it generates quick wins. Collecting feedback is fairly straightforward, but I'd say for a founder to be effectively, focus on one listening post. If you're speaking to customers directly, record what they're saying and go back to it. If you're meeting customers or you've got the opportunity to watch their behaviours, again, see that as feedback. If you need to, if you're not getting sufficient feedback or it's not clear, you can then use surveys. Now, surveys are they're a bit like Marmite. That's a British thing where we either love it or hate it. Bad surveys are dreadful. Bad surveys will drive your customers away. It's proven that if you send out long, dull surveys, customers don't just close them. They actually don't come back. So using short to the point surveys at the right touch points, just 1 or 2 touch points when you start, is a really good way to collect feedback. But collecting it is absolutely an utter waste of time if you don't then use it. And when we say use it, we've got 3 stages. We've got the analysis stage where we understand it. I'm going to come back to that. We've got sharing. So important. Sharing is where we engage our team. We engage all our stakeholders and we show them the feedback and we help them learn and understand our customers. And then, of course, we take action. And taking action means making a change in our business so that we deliver a better customer experience, or protecting the things that our customers want. Back to that idea of the CX wall. What some businesses do is they create an amazing product, service, or touch point, and then as they scale up, growth and cost become competing factors and they take out some of the good stuff that they used to do. But let's go back to analyze, because that's so important. I'd say when you're first doing feedback, an analysis should be manual. Read every single piece of feedback and watch your own emotions. You're doing this manually, mainly so that you understand customers. So read that feedback. Notice when you have an emotional response to it. If somebody's tone makes you angry, what can you do to get past the tone? If somebody says something that just doesn't make sense to you, go and ask somebody else for an interpretation. The second reason for doing it manually is so that you can understand your feedback, and when the time comes, you can automate that analysis through a voice of the customer platform. But if you haven't done it manually, you don't know what questions to ask when you buy that platform. So in summary, choose one listening post, analyze the data manually, share the data, take action. Come back to your listening post to see if that action has had a positive result. Collect more feedback, do more analysis, share more insights, take more action. Rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. It is a continuous improvement loop. You'll get better at it. You can add in listening posts, and you can go to things like AI automation for some parts of the process to make it easier for you. When I say tools, I mean the activities that take place within a business to understand customers, meet their needs, or earn a return on our investment in customer experience. Just about all of these tools have some sort of digital equivalent, but just like with Voice of the Customer, do them manually to start with. Take the time to let your perceptions change and start understanding your customers better. When we're understanding customers, we can use empathy maps. I love these. They come from service design, and they really, really open people's eyes. Somebody described it to me once as getting under the skin of the customer. We can also use something called a North Star. A North Star means something to all startups, but in customer experience, what we're looking for in a North Star is not where we're going as a business, but what we want our customers to think, feel, and do as a result of their interactions with us. The North Star isn't about understanding our customers, but it is about understanding where we want our customers to be. And it's a lovely tool for increasing empathy. Then we can move into meeting our customers' needs. And all three of the tools I'm going to mention here have an element of understanding and an element of designing products, services, and touch points. So the most exciting is a value proposition. And don't get me started on people who do a strap line and say, that's my value proposition. Anybody who works with me will roll their eyes and say, there's a lot of pages in this value proposition, Michelle. And that's because we understand our customers, we understand their needs. That can be their jobs to be done, their psychological needs, how they want to feel about themselves, and their social needs, how they want others to feel about them. I'm going to do that again because I don't want people to feel the customers. We start by understanding our customers' needs. That can be their jobs to be done, their psychological needs, which is how they want to feel about themselves, and their social needs, which is what they want others to think of them. When we understand that, we can then say how we are going to meet each one of those needs. And for me, that gives us a beautiful customer-oriented set of requirements for our product, service, and touchpoint design. Whether you want to give that to your website team, to your ops team, to your CTO, even to your CFO, what we start seeing is why we're putting these things into our product. And I think it's such a valuable tool. And any business that has time to do this, let alone a startup, will make a stronger product. We've talked about voice of the customer, but just to reiterate, voice of the customer is when we use customer feedback to understand customers, improve their customer experience, and protect the things they value. And that brings us to customer journey mapping. The key thing about a customer journey is it belongs to the customer and they invite us in to some touch points. And if we do well on those touch points, they continue inviting us in. But it is their journey. It starts with an awareness of a need and it ends with the satisfaction of that need. If we can map that customer journey from the customer's perspective and we can put in that journey data such as what's the value proposition, what's the North Star, what's the customer feedback we're getting, and we think about that for our key customer segments, what we can do is, again, design the optimum customer journey, albeit from our perspective, and also make more improvements, see more places where we can fix what we're doing or protect what we're doing, which is such an important part of customer experience. And then finally, earn a return on investment. Nobody's in business to make happy customers. They're in business because they have a passion, they have a business because they want to make money. When we earn a return on investment, we go back largely to marketing and we say, here are our happy customers. Do some upsells, do some offers, ensure that the revenue comes through. We also say, here are some unhappy customers, and depending on your sector, you might go to customer support, customer services, account management, or even customer success, and you say, here are some unhappy customers. Fix it. Fix it. Let them know that we're listening, let them know we care. And then again, we can earn a return on our investment. So 3 stages: understand, meet, earn a return on your investment. Personas are a brilliant tool for us to share in our organisation so that everybody understands who the customer is. But personas talk about a single customer. Yeah. They don't talk about a market, and there's many, many important reasons for that. The most important, I think, is that customers come to us as individuals. They don't come to us as a market. And in fact, the market doesn't exist. The market is something we construct. We say, this is my total achievable market. And we draw a line around a whole group of people. We then break that down and we break it down and we break it down to the market that we're going to work on to start with. But that market's entirely fake. If you put all those people in a football stadium, they'd look at each other and say, why are we all here? And it would be because you see them as potential customers, not because they necessarily see themselves as potential customers. So we have to talk to people as individuals. And that's where the persona is a really powerful tool. I talk about describing our customers. We describe our customers in different disciplines in different ways. In marketing, it's how do we reach our customers? What channels are they on? What messages will they respond to? And the goal is to get them into the sales funnel. In sales and in finance, we often talk about our customer personas as segments, because what we're trying to do is break up our market into groups of people or businesses where we can determine our pricing, the level of support we give, even the product that we sell. In customer experience, we're understanding our customers to understand their needs. So often it's a much smaller persona. We have fewer personas, but what we do is we get under the skin of an individual and say, what's that individual thinking and feeling and doing? What are they hearing? What are they seeing? And we think about them as individuals. So why do we need to think about customers as individuals? Well, we human beings are hardwired to have empathy for individuals, not for groups. There are so many amazing stories, pieces of science behind this. One of my favorites is an experiment some social scientists did on jury convictions. And they did it as a lab experiment, but they also went out to the field courtrooms and tested their hypothesis. And they said they think that large groups of victims would get less compensation in fraud cases than small groups of victims. And you know what? It turned out exactly that. If the jury could see and empathise with, identify with, understand one or two people, they gave much higher awards than when it was a faceless mess. And I have so many stories from different realms about that. But we need to think about individuals in order to build empathy, and we have to build empathy in order to understand and be ready to take the action. So all these things come back round to that mindset change, that change of perspective that I've mentioned earlier, because what we have to do is stop seeing our business from the inside and how we want it to be, but focus on it from the outside. And we call that outside in thinking, and it's really, really powerful. When we see with our customers' eyes, we see things that we just cannot see when we're internally. So thinking about customers as individuals, having empathy gives us better insights and an emotional connection to those insights that help us take action. There's two aspects to a customer experience strategy. Is which tools are we going to use, and how are we going to mature our ability to manage customer experience? When choosing a tool, I really think it's better to start small, gain competence, gain capability, and gain empathy, get some results and build out, than to try and create an all singing, all dancing customer experience management strategy. Start small, go quick, fail fast if that's the case, and keep improving customer experience continuously. But the things that you do in your first days as a startup won't hold up as you grow, as you scale up, as you get more customers, as you enter more markets. So building your customer experience maturity alongside improving customer experience is vital. So that could be growing a team. It could be taking on some of the tools in automation, like Invoice to the Customer or customer journey mapping. It can be changing our perspectives. In my maturity model, I talk about fixing, improving, transforming, and disrupting. Moving up those levels makes your customer experience management more mature, and it boosts the value you get from that investment.